WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and across the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Liberian police arrest Colonel Claude P.V. Guinea's most wanted fugitive charged with crimes against humanity in 2009 stadium massacre. The Gambian parliament approves the deployment of 150 soldiers to Freetown as part of peacekeeping force.
This deployment is intended to contribute to the ECOWAS joint operation aimed at restoring peace, security and stability in Sierra Leone following a recent attempted military coup.
ECOWAS condemns Tuesday's terrorist attack in Mali as security experts express concern over growing insecurity in the region.
The point they want to make is quite clear. We are here, we can strike when we want and where we want, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. And the targets have been fairly consistent as well. They have been government representation, army personnel, schools and hospitals, and anything that's got to do with the presence of the state.
And U.S. completes withdrawal of its troops from Niger. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. We'll begin in Guinea with a piece of breaking news confirming the arrest of Colonel Claude P.V., a former army chief charged and served a life prison sentence in absentia for crimes against humanity. P.V., also known as Copland, has been on the run for months following his escape from a detention facility before the historic trial of the case of September 28, 2009 stadium massacre. The exact date and time of P.V.'s arrest are unknown. Imo Edet has more of this report.
According to sources, the former army officer was arrested by the police in Liberia, a country where he had reportedly sought refuge. No information was provided about the circumstances leading to the arrest of the former Minister of Presidential Security, but sources say Conakry will initiate the process for his immediate extradition to Guinea to face justice. A circulated image of the arrest showed him wearing a white t-shirt surrounded by armed police officers. Already on the watch list of Interpol after the issuance of an international arrest by the Guinean authorities, Claude P.V.'s arrest may come as a relief for victims and families of victims of the 2009 incident. While P.V. is not the only person accused in the trial, he received the heaviest sentence in the trial by Dixon Court in Conakry. Former junta leader Captain Musa Dadis Kamara and Musa Tiegboro Kamara were sentenced to 20 years in prison. Marcel Gulavogi was sentenced to 18 years, Bless Gumu to 15 years, Mamadou Aliou Keita to 11 years, while Abubakar Diakite, known as Tumba, and Paul Mansa Gulavogi received 10 years in prison, respectively. At least 150 people were killed, hundreds injured, and countless cases of rape were recorded when hundreds of protesters gathered at a stadium on September 28, 2009 to denounce the military regime in power.
In more edit with our report, and WADR will bring you details of that story as it unfolds. The National Assembly of the Gambia has ratified and approved the deployment of its troops to contribute to the ECOWAS stabilization mission in Sierra Leone. The approval by the parliament followed a heated debate among lawmakers on Tuesday. This comes following an attempted coup in Sierra Leone last November. From Banjul, Sankule Janko has more.
The request to the Parliament for the consideration and ratification of the deployment of 150 motorized Gambian troops to Sierra Leone as part of the ECOWAS stabilization mission was tabled by Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow on behalf of the executive.
This deployment is intended to contribute to the ECOWAS joint operation aimed at restoring peace, security and stability in Sierra Leone following a recent attempted military coup. The President urgently requests the approval of this Assembly for the deployment of Gambian troops to Sierra Leone pursuant to Section 188(4) of the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia 1997.
This motion by President Adama Barrow but tabled by Jallow on Tuesday caused a heated debate among the National Assembly members on the floor of Parliament.
On my part and on the part of the majority camp, we are humbly supporting this very important motion. It's an important motion for the Gambia and for everybody.
The Gambia is a country who has undergone so many attempted coups, but there was no redeployment deployment of troops from any member state just to come and restore a peace here. Let us not use that as a yardstick.
After hours of intense debate, the parliamentarians gave the green light for the deployment of Gambian troops as part of the ECO stabilization force. There was, however, no mention of the date of their departure or duration of their stay in the West African nation. Recall in June, ECOWAS at a summit in Abuja activated its standby force, promising to deploy the first contingent to Sierra Leone. Before this development, a group of militants comprising retired and serving military officers last November attacked several locations in Freetown. The Sierra Leonean government had declared the insurrection as an attempt to overthrow the regime of President Julius Maada Bio. By January 2024, a military court in the country sentenced 27 people, including soldiers, for treasonable offences. For Newslink and West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankulu Janka reporting from Banjul.
And now to the Sahel, the Malian army has said it repelled the twin attack on Tuesday in Bamako, neutralizing terrorists and arresting several others. The armed forces also confirmed heavy material damage and casualties during the fighting that lasted hours but gave no account of people killed. According to sources, businesses and administrative duties were temporarily suspended due to security concerns until the evening hours of Tuesday, when the army assured that the situation was under control. For its part, the JNIM terrorist network claimed responsibility for the simultaneous attacks on the Gendarmerie College and the Air Force Base. It should be noted that security forces have long fought against extremist groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda and Islamic State IS in the northern and western regions away from the capital. But what explains Tuesday's attack in Bamako? Bram Posthumous, a journalist familiar with the Sahel region, joins us with his analysis of some probable security lapses resulting in the gunfight.
You have to realize that not only is Bamako very large, it is also fairly unprotected. And obviously these groups are making use of that fact, and they're making use of the fact that it is extremely easy to get inside Bamako and stage this kind of attack like the one we have witnessed Tuesday on the gendarmerie school. And the airport. And it seems to be the case that the presence of the military junta, no less, has made very, very little difference in the ease with which you can get arms into Bamako. There are hardly any checkpoints when you get into town, or indeed set up cells in terms of the kind of targets that are being selected by these insurgents to make a point. And the point they want to make is quite clear. The point is, we are here, we can strike when we want and where we want, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. And the targets have been fairly consistent as well. They have been government representations, be they gendarmes, be they army personnel, be they customs personnel, be they environmental officers of the famous OSIWA, whether it's indeed schools and hospitals and anything that's got to do with the presence of the state. As you well know, the policy of JNIM is to replace those state representations with Islam-led representations.
Bram Posthumous, a journalist with vast knowledge of the Sahel region, speaking there. Meanwhile, the Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS, says it strongly condemns a terrorist attack in the Malian capital, Bamako. The sub-regional bloc, in a statement, extended its sincere condolences to the government and people of Mali, as well as to the families of the victims. It reaffirms its firm condemnation of any terrorist attack that threatens the peace and security of the populations of the West African region. ECOWAS also reiterates its firm commitment to any initiative on peace, security, and stability in the sub-region. And before leaving the Sahel region, the United States has completed the withdrawal of its troops stationed in Nigeria to support the fight against terrorism. The finalization of the process was announced in a joint statement Tuesday by the Nigerian Ministry of National Defense and the United States Department of Defense. Concluded on September 15, the pullout was first initiated in May 2024 after Washington and Miami ended military cooperation agreements. Francis Boniface has more.
In Tuesday's joint statement, both parties alluded to having carried out a safe, orderly and responsible withdrawal of American troops without complications on the agreed deadline of September 15, 2024. The withdrawal included equipment deployed in Niger. In a sequential order, the statement informed that the withdrawal process began on May 19 following the establishment of withdrawal conditions and the departure of American forces and equipment from Air Base 101 in Niamey on July 7, 2024. On August 5, 2024, U.S. troops departed Air Base 201 in Agadez. The United States handed over its last military bases in Niger to local authorities last month, but about 24 American soldiers had remained in Niger for administrative duties related to the withdrawal. The two ministries also recalled the American contribution over the last decade, which included the training of Nigerian forces and support in joint operations against terrorist groups in the Sahel. America deployed its first mission to Niger in January 2013 and would later reach a military strength of at least 1,000 soldiers until the junta led by General Abdurrahman Chani asked them to leave.
Francis Boniface filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we're streaming live on wadr.org and on Facebook, WADR English Service. The Ghana Police Service, GPS, has denied claims of shooting incidents in the just-ended nationwide Enough is Enough demonstration by the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC. The protest aimed at piling pressure on the Electoral Commission to allow for an independent forensic audit of the voter register ahead of December 7 polls was generally peaceful across all 16 regions. However, Christopher Teacher reports that the situation was slightly different in the Ashanti region, Kumasi, where protesters clashed with the police, resulting in injuries.
Despite a general peaceful simultaneous demonstration across all 16 regions, the story in Kumasi, capital of the Ashanti region, was different.
They are beating us there. They are pushing me. What are you doing? And nobody's going to live here.
The chaotic scene erupted after police fired tear gas to disperse a section of the crowd who clashed with the security operatives during the demonstration. A protester was injured and rushed to a nearby hospital for medical treatment. Augustus Nana Akwesi is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC.
Some police person has given me a dirty blow, and we know I'm trying to enter into the premises, and he gave me a dirty blow. So they should do the right thing, clear the road so that I go inside, unless nobody is going there. And we are going to sleep here until tomorrow. Some has been gunshot.
But the Ghana Police Service, in a statement signed by the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Grace Ansa Akrofi, indicates that there was no shooting incident at Kumasi AC's office as reported. The police explained that the demonstrators attempted to push their way into the premises of the Electoral Commission and pelted officers with stones. Although the situation was later brought under control, an officer was wounded. The nationwide protest concluded with the opposition party petitioning Ghana's parliament and the Electoral Commission over key demands presented by Fifi Fiavekwete, General Secretary of the opposition party.
The Electoral Commission should urgently convene a meeting with all political parties, civil society organizations, and key international stakeholders, including the ECOWAS, the AU, and all others, to discuss the forensic audit and ensure collective oversight of the electoral process.
For WADR, Christopher Ticho.
Away from Ghana, the recent fuel price increase has left many Nigerians scrambling for alternatives as the economic bite deepens. In this report, WADR's Usman Omar says private car owners are increasingly parking their vehicles and opting for public transportation, while commercial motorists and taxi operators are adjusting their routes to cope with the financial strain. His report.
In Lagos, Abuja and Kano, the biggest cities in Nigeria, once thriving highways, are now witnessing a decline in private vehicles as owners seek more affordable options.
I normally go out with my car and wind down properly like other motorists. They normally wind up. They normally wind down. Many people are no longer using the AC on their various cars. The situation is very critical.
Ride-hailing companies are also feeling the pinch, with many drivers limiting their routes to minimize losses.
Before, if I want to go to mainland and Ekpe or Ajah before, I would buy for like 3,000, 4,000. But now it's about 15,000 to 17,000 naira now.
The fuel price hike has sparked widespread concern, with many Nigerians calling for government intervention.
If I'm traveling from here to the east, from Lagos to maybe to Onitsha, I'll spend fuel worth of almost 70,000-80,000 naira. So if I enter public transport, I'll spend just like 15,000 to 20,000 naira. So nowadays, we prefer entering public transport than using a private car. The government should look into it and see how they can come down to the price so that things can be easy for everyone.
A litre of fuel sometimes last week sold at 617 naira after removal of subsidy from May 29, 2023, but now sells at between 950 naira to above 1,000 naira per litre. The Nigerian government has maintained that the price increase is a reflection of global market realities, hence not even the coming on stream of the multi-billion-dollar Dangote refinery could change the situation. As Nigerians adapt to the new reality, economists warn of potential long-term consequences for the country's economy. For now, Nigerians are bracing for the impact, seeking creative solutions to navigate the challenging economic landscape. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink right here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Liberian police arrest Colonel Claude PV, Guinea's most wanted fugitive charged with crimes against humanity in the 2009 Stadium massacre. The Gambian parliament approves the deployment of 150 soldiers to Freetown as part of peacekeeping force. ECOWAS condemns Tuesday's terrorist attack in Mali as security experts express concern over growing insecurity in the region and the U.S. complete withdrawal of its troops from Niger. Still ahead in the news, we have the guest interview, press review, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. Let's take you to Liberia, where the government has launched a campaign to secure a non-permanent membership at the UN Security Council. As part of this effort, the country's Foreign Affairs Minister, Sarah Beslo-Nyanti, has officially written to former heads of state, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and George Weah, as well as Nobel laureate Leima Bowie, asking for their support. The request for endorsement has sparked discussions among political institutions and non-state actors in the country, particularly regarding the support from former President George Weah, who initiated the process during his presidency. While some view the current government's actions as inclusive in pursuing Liberia's bid for the UN Security Council membership, others believe it will be a significant achievement for Boakai's administration. Here is Daniel Sandu, the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs at the Ministry of Information.
It is absolutely important because, take for example, somebody like former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who wield a lot of influence in the international cycle. If she can do a short video endorsing Liberia's bid for the non-permanent seat of the United Nations Security Council, it's going to be a morale booster for Liberia's campaign. So it is not just limited to this former president. There are current and former government officials who are also been shortlisted by the foreign minister. They have been requested to do this video, this soundbite, as a way of supporting Liberia's bid for the non-permanent seat of the Security Council. We have to look at the future of our country beyond a narrow lens of politics. Anybody who thinks that the effort of the current government to get on board permanent citizen, including the former president, that it will be a glory for the current government, you will be getting it wrong. If Liberia becomes a non-permanent member of the Security Council, Liberians take pride in that. It is no glory for a particular regime. As a matter of fact, the effort that has led us here didn't begin with this regime. So we have to see this beyond our various political parties. And I think the former president himself should see this as an example to showcase his loyalty, patriotism, and nationalism to his country.
Daniel Sandu is the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs at the Ministry of Information in Liberia.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Today's press review takes us to the Gambia, where WADR's Sankle Janko is standing by with some national dailies.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Press Review. Let's begin with the Point newspaper. Deputies spar over deployment of Gambian troops to Sierra Leone. Tourism Ministry launches first over MSMEs cohort of accelerator program. Government justifies deletion of Teacher Health Service Commission in 2024 draft. And this other one reads, President Mbalo reconsiders second-term bid amid political uncertainty. Let's move on to the Fourier newspaper for today. Man assaults Pateba in Buduk, resulting in bodily injuries. Gambians increasingly support democracy, but discount on governance grows, survey shows. National Assembly confirms replacement in Armed Forces Council. Trade Minister calls for promotion of domestic production to shield the economy from shocks. This other one reads, Finance Minister welcomes audit investigation into NAWEC's report. Now let's look at the final newspaper for today, and that is the Standard newspaper. Barrow urged to declare emergency over migrant crisis. WTO calls for lower remittance cost to boost development. A Gambian priest says church testimonies should be treated as fake unless verified. West Marcia officers embark on humanitarian mission to Gambia. Now let's look at this one also, and it reads, Government suspends issuance of radio license. Commissioner King Colley tackles roaming caused cattle. And finally, this other one reads, Assembly approves deployment of Gambian soldiers to Sierra Leone. Of course, this comes after a heated debate at the National Assembly yesterday when a motion was tabled by the Vice President Mohamed Bijal on behalf of President Barrow for the Parliament to consider and ratify the deployment of Gambian soldiers to Sierra Leone. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies, and it's back to you in the studio.
Sankle Janko there with the press review.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
Torrential rains have unleashed catastrophic floods in West and Central Africa, affecting over 4 million people in 14 countries, according to the United Nations. An agency of the UN system, the World Food Programme, WFP, warns that the worrying spike in humanitarian needs comes amid a regional hunger crisis already affecting 55 million people. National governments are on the front line of this crisis, with WFP's support providing critical food and nutrition assistance to nearly 1 million people across the region. This crucial assistance enables affected families to meet their basic food and nutrition needs while they try to rebuild their lives. Josende Majanga, Regional Communication Officer for WFP West and Central Africa Bureau, is our guest on this edition of Newslink.
The World Food Programme is supporting the government. The national governments are on the front lines of this crisis, providing assistance as much as they can, and WFP is supporting them, currently targeting 1 million people across the region. So what we are basically doing is that we are providing emergency assistance consisting of cooked rations that we distribute to families who have been forced to leave their homes because of the flooding. We are doing this in Nigeria. We are doing it also in many other countries, including Niger, Mali, Chad, and Cameroon, where we are distributing cash or dry food to those who have been forced to leave their home due to the rains, due to the floodings.
Farmers in remote areas or in rural areas are also among the most affected category of people, because thousands of hectares of farmlands have been washed away, and the projections are that in the coming days or months, there's going to be serious hunger unless something is done. Is WFP working in this regard to provide some sort of intervention?
Definitely, yes. And you may have seen that in addition to the emergency assistance to flood-hit families, WFP has clearly called on partners for an increased investment in early warning systems, in anticipatory actions, and in disaster risk financing, and most importantly also on social protection systems that have the potential to help mitigate flood and other climate risks. Because we need, if we anticipate some of the things that are happening can be anticipated, and we have mechanisms, we have tools that people and governments and partners can use to better prepare families to be ready when those climate events happen. But you see, we have the impression that families or communities in West and Central Africa are facing a crisis within a crisis. Because remember, we have 55 million people in this region who are already facing acute hunger. This is the highest number we haven't seen for the past 5 years. So these people are already struggling with food insecurity, and now with these floodings, more and more families will be affected. And as you rightly said, farmers are among the most affected, with farming lands washed away, with livestock destroyed, with homes distracted and everything. And we see that the outlook of agricultural production might be compromised, which will again send another wave of food insecurity in the coming months. So we definitely need to increase investment in resilience programs so that those affected, farmers, herders, and all those people, communities that are affected, can get back on their feet and be able to restart their activities again.
John Sidi Majangar, Regional Communication Officer for WFP West and Central Africa Bureau. In the sporting world, the President of the Confederation of African Football, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, has confirmed the date of the African Nations Championship CHAN 2024 final tournament. The tournament will be played between February 1 and 28, 2025. The first round of qualifiers will be played on the weekend of October 25 to 27, 2024, CAF reports. CHAN is scheduled to be hosted in East Africa. CAF said it will communicate in due course stadiums and other venues to be used for the competition. And that's how we wrap up this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudou Diouf for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our gender flagship program 50-50 with Nadiri Tete. Demba Amar-An comes live at the top of the hour of 1 p.m. with the second edition of our comprehensive news packet in French and Fushivu. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.